Sometimes the loudest power you can hold is silence. The moment you stop chasing validation, stop trying to prove your worth, and simply focus on building yourself, the world starts aligning in ways you never expected. When you invest in your growth and keep your energy grounded, people notice without you saying a word. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. And when combined with self-focus, it creates clarity, confidence, and peace that makes everything else fall into place. Silence gives you control over your energy and responses, and that is something most people never realize until they've lost it. The reason silence is so powerful is because it shifts the balance back to you. When someone comes at you with negativity, pressure, or provocation, the moment you react impulsively, you hand over your power. You give them access to your emotions, and they end up steering the conversation or the situation in their direction. But when you remain silent, when you hold back, you're not suppressing yourself, you're controlling yourself. You're choosing not to waste energy where it doesn't belong. That is real strength, because strength is not measured by how loud you can be, it's measured by how steady you can remain when everything around you is trying to knock you off balance. Silence doesn't mean you agree, it doesn't mean you're weak, it doesn't mean you don't have a response. It simply means you know the value of your energy and you are not willing to give it away for free. It means you are patient enough to choose the right moment, the right words, and the right battles. The truth is, most arguments are fueled by reaction, not reason. People say things in the heat of the moment that they don't mean, and those words become permanent scars. But silence acts as a filter. It gives you the pause you need to process, to breathe, to make sure that when you do respond, your response is intentional, sharp, and effective. That pause is where maturity lives. It is where wisdom comes in. Think about it. How many times have you regretted something you said because you didn't take a moment to pause? Now think about how many times you've regretted staying silent. The first one happens all the time. The second one rarely does. That's because silence protects you. It protects your dignity, it protects your relationships, and it protects your energy. Another thing people underestimate is how silence changes the dynamic of respect. When you argue back and forth, you place yourself on the same level as the person provoking you. But when you remain silent, you rise above it. You make the other person question themselves. You create a space of uncertainty for them. And in that silence, they are left to wrestle with their own words. That's where power shifts. You don't have to shout to prove you are in control. Your composure proves it for you. People notice when you don't flinch, when you don't engage in the drama, when you don't feel the need to defend yourself every second. Silence shows you are secure enough not to be rattled. Silence also gives you the room to conserve your energy for things that matter. Life is full of distractions, arguments, gossip, criticism, unnecessary debates. All of those things drain your energy if you let them. But when you practice silence, you're saying to yourself that your peace is more valuable than winning a pointless exchange. You're saying that not every comment deserves a response, not every opinion deserves your attention, and not every battle deserves to be fought. That's a high level of self-control, and the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Silence builds discipline, it builds patience, it builds presence. There's also a confidence that comes with silence. When you don't feel the need to explain yourself, when you don't feel the need to argue your worth, you start walking differently. People sense it. They sense that you're grounded, that you're not desperate for approval, that you're comfortable in who you are. And that kind of confidence can't be faked. It only comes from learning how to control your tongue and your energy. People may not remember every word you say, but they will always remember how composed you were when silence was your response. Silence is not emptiness, it is strategy. It is the ability to pause long enough to see clearly, to think deeply, and to respond wisely. It keeps you in control of yourself when the world tries to pull that control away. Focusing on yourself brings clarity and natural confidence, because when your attention is scattered on everything and everyone around you, you lose sight of your own direction. The truth is, Most people spend their energy trying to manage what others think, trying to fix what others are doing, or constantly comparing their progress to someone else's. That constant outward focus drains your energy and leaves you confused about where you're even headed. But the moment you start turning that focus inward, things begin to make sense. You begin to see your own strengths more clearly, you begin to recognize the areas you need to grow, and you stop wasting energy on things that you cannot control. That shift in focus is where clarity is born, because clarity doesn't come from the noise of the outside world. It comes from alignment with yourself. When you focus on yourself, you stop chasing after approval and validation, and that is where natural confidence starts to build. Think about it. Confidence built on the opinions of others is fragile. It disappears the moment someone disagrees with you or fails to notice your effort. But confidence built on self-awareness and personal growth is solid. It's rooted in who you are and what you've accomplished without needing someone else's applause. It comes from setting your own standards and meeting them. It comes from deciding what you value and living by it. And the more you stay in that lane, the stronger and steadier your confidence becomes. It is not loud, it is not arrogant, it is simply present, and people notice it without you needing to announce it. Clarity is also about direction. Life throws countless distractions at you, and if you're constantly focused outward, you're pulled in every direction but your own. Focusing on yourself is like putting blinders on a horse. It keeps your eyes straight ahead so you don't stumble over what's happening on the sidelines. It allows you to set goals that matter to you instead of chasing after things just because someone else is doing them. That kind of clarity reduces anxiety because you stop second guessing whether you're on the right path. You know your path because it's yours, and you're too focused on walking it to worry about where everyone else is going. Another benefit of focusing inward is growth. When you finally pull your attention back from everyone else, you discover how much room you have to grow in silence and solitude. You start investing time in your skills, in your health, in your mindset, and the results of that investment show up naturally in your life. That's where the natural confidence comes from. It's not about faking it until you make it. It's about genuinely becoming better until you don't need to fake it at all. People can tell when confidence is forced and when it is earned. Earned confidence comes from the daily decision to put yourself first, to discipline yourself, and to improve in areas that matter. When you're focused on yourself, your boundaries also get stronger. You're less likely to let people walk over you because you know the value of your time and energy. You're not as quick to engage in arguments or drama because you know your focus is too important to be wasted. That kind of clarity protects your peace, and when your peace is protected, your confidence grows even more. It becomes a cycle of growth that feeds itself. The more you focus inward, the more clarity you gain and the more confidence you build. People often misunderstand focusing on yourself as selfishness, but it's the opposite. When you take care of yourself, when you find clarity in your own path, and when you build natural confidence, you actually become a better person for others. You show up more stable, more secure, and more capable of supporting those around you. But it starts with you. It starts with choosing to take your focus off the noise, off the comparisons, off the constant need to prove, and turning it toward your own growth, your own peace, and your own vision. The less you explain, the more powerful you appear because explanation often comes from a place of insecurity rather than confidence. When you constantly feel the need to justify your choices, defend your actions, or over-explain your reasoning, what you're really communicating is doubt. You're saying, without realizing it, that you're not entirely sure of yourself and you're looking for approval or validation from someone else. But when you trust yourself enough to stand firm without feeling pressured to explain every detail, you project strength. People sense that steadiness. They sense that calm, and it makes them view you as someone who knows exactly what they're doing. Silence in the face of pressure can be louder than words. It sends a message that you are grounded, that you don't need external validation to move forward, and that your actions will speak louder than any explanation you could give. Explaining too much can also weaken your position in situations where authority or composure is needed. For example, when you make a decision and spend 10 minutes explaining why you made it, you give room for people to dissect your reasoning, poke holes in it, or challenge your authority. But when you state your decision clearly and leave it at that, you close the door on unnecessary debate. The truth is, people respect certainty. They may not always agree with it, but they recognize and respond to the strength that comes with it. And certainty doesn't require long explanations. It requires confidence in your stance. That's why the less you explain, the stronger your position feels. Another layer to this is energy management. Every explanation requires effort, and when you waste that effort on people who don't truly care or don't have your best interest at heart, you're draining yourself unnecessarily. Not everyone deserves access to your thought process. Not everyone deserves to know the reasoning behind every move you make. Keeping some things to yourself creates a boundary, a protective wall around your energy, and that wall is necessary. It tells people that your life is not open for endless inspection, that your choices are your own, and that your confidence does not come from their understanding of you. That kind of restraint is powerful, and it makes others view you as someone who doesn't get shaken easily. The less you explain, the more mysterious you become, and mystery naturally draws respect and attention. People start to wonder what you're thinking, why you made that choice, or what gives you such calm assurance. And that curiosity puts you in control of the situation because you are not giving them everything. You're not predictable, you're not easily read, and that alone adds weight to your presence. Think of the leaders, mentors, or even peers you admire most. Chances are they don't explain every single move they make. They allow their results, their actions, and their consistency to speak for them. And that's why people follow them, because they carry an energy that doesn't need to beg for understanding. When you over-explain, you also open yourself up to unnecessary judgment. The more details you give, the more opportunities you create for criticism. But when you keep things simple, when you let your words be few but firm, you limit that opening. You're not giving people tools to use against you. You're protecting your peace, your focus, and your confidence. This doesn't mean you should never communicate or that you should withhold important information. It means you should be intentional about what you share and why you share it. If the explanation serves no purpose other than to make someone else more comfortable, you don't need to give it. The real power lies in letting your actions speak. When you make a choice and you back it up with consistency, you don't need to explain it. People will see the results over time. They'll understand without you saying a word. That's how trust and respect are built. Words are temporary, but actions leave proof. And when your actions are strong, steady, and aligned with who you are, no explanation is necessary. Growth happens in stillness, not in noise, because the moments when you're quiet with yourself are the moments when you actually hear what matters. The world is filled with constant distractions, constant voices telling you what you should be, what you should do, and how you should live. If you're always caught up in that noise, your mind never gets the chance to breathe. You're constantly reacting instead of reflecting, constantly moving without understanding why, constantly filling your life with activity that doesn't bring you closer to who you're meant to be. But when you step back, when you allow stillness to enter, you finally create space for growth. Stillness isn't about doing nothing. It's about allowing your mind, your body, and your spirit to process, to heal, and to reset. It's in stillness that you notice the things you've been ignoring. It's in stillness that you realize the habits that hold you back. It's in stillness that clarity rises to the surface and you begin to see the path forward with new eyes. Noise is often a way of escaping ourselves. People surround themselves with constant conversations, entertainment, or drama because silence feels uncomfortable. They're afraid of what they might discover if they stop long enough to listen to their own thoughts. But real growth requires you to face those thoughts. It requires you to look at yourself honestly and admit what needs to change. That honesty doesn't come when you're buried in noise. It comes when you're still enough to confront your own reflection without distractions. Stillness is where accountability begins, and accountability is the first step to transformation. In stillness, your perspective shifts. You stop reacting to the rush of the world and start seeing the bigger picture. You begin to separate what actually matters from what doesn't. That perspective is what allows you to grow, because growth isn't about doing more, it's about doing the right things. You can spend your whole life running in circles in the noise, but one moment of deep stillness can show you that you were running in the wrong direction. Stillness teaches you alignment. It shows you where your values lie, what you actually care about, and what's been draining your energy. Without that awareness, growth is impossible because you can't fix what you don't see. Stillness also builds strength. It takes discipline to sit with yourself, to resist the urge to constantly fill the space with words, actions, or noise. But the more you practice stillness, the stronger your inner world becomes. You learn to regulate your emotions, to slow down your reactions, to think before you move. That kind of control doesn't just make you calmer, it makes you sharper. It allows you to make decisions that are not rushed, but rooted in wisdom. And every wise decision becomes a brick in the foundation of your growth. Think about nature. A tree doesn't grow taller because of the noise around it. It grows in silence, rooted deeply in stillness. Its growth is invisible at first, but steady and unshakable. People are no different. The most profound changes often happen quietly, in the times when no one is watching, when you're working on yourself in the background, when you're sitting in stillness and letting patience and discipline shape you. Those quiet seasons are what prepare you for the visible seasons of success. Noise can feel like progress, but it's often just distraction. Talking about your plans isn't the same as working on them. Filling your day with activity isn't the same as building yourself. Real progress is often unseen, and that unseen work happens in stillness. It happens when you pause long enough to focus, when you slow down enough to realign, when you let silence teach you lessons that the noise of the world never could. Growth is not about how much you can show others. It's about how much you can build within yourself when no one else is around. Everything aligns when your energy is directed inward, not outward, because the more you scatter yourself across people's opinions, external validation, or endless distractions, the less control you have over your own life. When your energy is constantly poured into others' approval, into explaining yourself, into chasing comparisons, you lose the ability to focus on the things that truly build you. But when you pull that energy back in, when you choose to invest it into your growth, your peace, your health, and your purpose, life begins to line up in ways you never thought possible. It's not that the world suddenly becomes easier, it's that you become stronger, more grounded, and more capable of moving through it. Alignment comes when what you think, what you feel, and what you do are all moving in the same direction, and that only happens when your focus is inward. Directing energy inward doesn't mean you stop caring about people or the world around you. It means you stop giving away your power to things you cannot control. It means you stop living your life based on how others will react, and you start living based on the values and standards you've chosen for yourself. That shift is powerful because it creates consistency. Instead of bending yourself in 100 different directions to keep everyone else happy, you stand firm in who you are, and that consistency draws respect, trust, and stability. People may not always agree with your choices, but they will recognize the strength of someone who knows where their energy belongs. The alignment that comes from inward focus also gives you peace. When your energy is scattered outward, your mind is restless, always overthinking, always worrying, always comparing. But when you turn inward, you realize you don't need to be everywhere. You don't need to answer to everyone, and you don't need to win every battle. You only need to pour into what keeps you growing, what keeps you healthy, and what keeps you at peace. That peace becomes the foundation for everything else, because no matter how chaotic the world gets, your inner world is steady. And when your inner world is steady, your outer world begins to reflect that stability. Another truth about directing energy inward is that it fuels real growth. When you're not distracted by proving yourself to others, you finally have the space to work on yourself. You start to notice where your time is going. You start building habits that serve you instead of habits that drain you, and you begin to create momentum that builds day by day. That momentum compounds, and before you know it, you're not just moving through life, you're moving forward with purpose, and people around you see it. They see the results, they feel the difference, and they notice without you ever needing to announce it. Focusing inward also creates resilience. Life will always throw challenges your way, but when your energy is centered within you, you stop breaking every time something doesn't go as planned. You stop falling apart when people don't support you. You stop relying on external circumstances to determine your happiness. Instead, your strength comes from within, from the work you've done on yourself, from the discipline you've built, from the focus you've maintained. That resilience is what keeps you moving, even when others would quit. And it's what allows everything to keep falling into place, even in seasons of uncertainty. When you direct your energy inward, you also naturally attract the right people and opportunities. Instead of chasing, you become magnetic because people are drawn to grounded energy. They can sense when someone is aligned, when someone knows who they are and doesn't need to prove it. That alignment creates flow, where the right doors open and the wrong ones close, where the right people enter and the wrong ones fade away. It feels less like forcing and more like things unfolding the way they're supposed to. And it all begins with the decision to stop scattering your energy outward and start channeling it into yourself. Because when you are centered, disciplined, and aligned, everything else eventually follows